Okay, so I'm going to just talk a little bit more about this function we were looking at. So go back to your general function notes in your notebook. As you can see, our general function is of this form 1 over x minus h, okay? This is a general function. This is called a family of functions, okay? So 1 over x minus h is a family, okay? Because it's not just one function, it can be any function where it's this form. And we know that 1 over x minus 7 belongs to this family. 1 over x minus 5 belongs to this family. So again, if I go back to Desmos and I use different types of h's, so I could do 1 over x minus 7, 1 over x minus 5, 1 over x minus 3, 1 over x minus 12. All these different types of h's, it's the same form, 1 over x minus something. This is all the functions that belong in your family. So there's a lot of different ways you can write this function, but it is a general format. They all have the same structure, okay? So a family of functions, so if we can write it under our graph here, functions have the same general structure, okay? When your function has a parameter of 0, so I'll talk about what a parameter is in a second, that's called your parent graph, okay? So, pause the video here, write these two notes down first, and then we'll talk about what a parameter is and what a parent graph means, okay? So in this general function, there are three parts. You have your input, x. So let me do this here. Actually, I'm going to insert equation. We'll do f of x equals 1 over x minus h. If you notice, x is your input, right? That's what you put into the function to see what comes out. F of x is your output, right? What comes out given a certain x. Output. And h, the one we set, right? We said it was 7 at first, then we said it was 5. But you can determine h to be anything you want. H is your parameter, okay? It's kind of just a set constant that determines what your graph is going to look like, where your graph is going to be. When this parameter is equal to 0, so in this case, when f of x equals 1 over x, which is our graph that we have here, that's your parent graph. So if we were to graph 1 over x, so go ahead and pause the video here and label all the parts of this function, and then we'll look at the parent graph. Okay, so the parent graph is when your h is 0, so it's x minus 0, which is just 1 over x. Okay, as you can see, the parent graph is centered here at the origin, but we still have that vertical asymptote at x equals 0. As we approach 0 from the left side, we go to negative infinity. As x approaches 0 from the right side, we go to positive infinity. So it's the same function, it's the same general type of shape, but it is the most basic graph of this type of function is your parent graph. Okay, so we'll talk more about parent graphs and different types of parent graphs. You notice I want you to go ahead and answer this one question, and you can try this on your own. Go to Desmos and graph the parent graph of f of x equals 1 over x minus h. Then graph other functions using age equals 3, 5, 7, 12, and then answer the following question. What is the relationship with the parent graph, of the parent graph to the other graphs of this function? So first you're going to graph the parent graph, 1 over x. Then you're going to, oh, I'm so sorry, I wrote this in the wrong place. This should be on general function notes. I'll put it here. Okay. What happens, what is the relationship between the parent graph to the other graph? So when you go to Desmos, you're going to graph 1 over x, 1 over x minus 3, 1 over x minus 5, 1 over x minus 12, 7, 1 over x minus 12. The parent graph here is in purple, as you can see. What's the relationship between this purple graph with all the other graphs? And you can kind of describe in your words what you observe. No right or wrong, I just want to see what you notice. Once you're finished, write down your answer, write down your thoughts in your notebook, take a photo, and then upload it on Dreamseedo.